6 months had passed since Marcus Chen first crash-landed in the meadow outside the Kethmori settlement. What had begun as a desperate struggle for survival had evolved into something neither he nor his hosts could have predicted. The Crystal Cities hummed with renewed energy as his recalibration project restored their power grids to full efficiency. More importantly, his tactical innovations had helped the Kethmori achieve their first decisive victories against the Void Seekers in decades. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the new Defense Coordination Center, watching teams of Kethmori warriors practice the integrated combat formations he had helped design. Instead of the individual dueling styles they had traditionally favored, they now moved as coordinated units. Their actions synchronized through crystal-based communication networks that turned 50 separate fighters into a single deadly organism. "Your ideas continue to bear fruit," Zarathiel observed, joining him at the railing. She had been promoted to defense coordinator after their joint successes, a position that made her one of the most powerful individuals in Kethmori society. But she still made time for daily visits to the research facility where Marcus worked on new innovations. "It's not just my ideas," Marcus replied, gesturing toward the training grounds. "Your people have taken every concept I've shared and improved it beyond what I thought possible. That new formation Kethvara's unit is practicing? I never could have designed that." Zarathiel nodded, her violet eyes tracking the intricate movements below. Kethvara, the massive warrior who had initially challenged Marcus's presence, had become one of his strongest supporters after seeing the effectiveness of human tactical thinking. "She has requested permission to name it the Chen Formation, in your honor." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. Having military maneuvers named after him was still something he was getting used to. "I'd prefer if she called it the Unity Formation, or something that reflects your people's contribution. This works because Kethmori warriors are adapting human ideas, not because the ideas themselves are superior." "You continue to surprise me with your humility," Zarathiel said softly. "Most who achieve such rapid success among our people become arrogant, but you seem determined to share credit for every victory." Before Marcus could respond, an alarm began sounding throughout the city. Not the harsh klaxons that indicated immediate danger, but the musical chimes that meant important news was being broadcast. Both he and Zarathiel moved to the nearest communication terminal, where a holographic display was materializing. The image showed High Arbiter Veltara, but she wasn't speaking from the council chambers. The background appeared to be the communications center, and her expression was one of barely controlled excitement. "Citizens of the Kethmori," she announced, "our deep space monitoring crystals have detected approaching vessels. Ships that match no known configuration in our databases. The signature is consistent with technologies described by our guest Marcus Chen. We believe his people have found him." Marcus felt his heart skip several beats. The Terran Colonial Authority had found him. After 6 months of assuming he might spend the rest of his life on this world, rescue was finally at hand. But as he looked around at the crystal city that had become home, at the alien friends who had become family, he realized his feelings were far more complicated than simple relief. "Congratulations," Zarathiel said, but her voice was carefully neutral. "You will finally be able to return to your own people." "Yeah," Marcus replied, though he couldn't quite match her enthusiasm. "I should probably prepare a report for them. They'll want to know everything about your civilization, your technology, your culture." The thought of reducing the Kethmori to a simple survey report felt wrong on multiple levels. These weren't just interesting aliens to be cataloged and studied. They were individuals who had shown him kindness when they could have easily left him to die in the wilderness. "There is something you should know," Zarathiel continued, her tone becoming more serious. "The Council has been discussing how to handle first contact with your species. There are concerns about human intentions." Marcus frowned. "What kind of concerns?" "You have been here 6 months, Marcus. In that time, you have revolutionized our defense capabilities, solved problems our best minds could not crack, and integrated yourself into our society in ways we never thought possible. If one human can accomplish so much, what might thousands of humans do? Some of our leaders worry about cultural contamination or even conquest. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. He had been so focused on proving his worth to the Keth Mori that he hadn't considered how his presence might affect their perception of humanity as a whole. From their perspective, humans might appear to be a species of dangerous innovators who could destabilize entire civilizations simply by existing in them. "They're not wrong to be concerned," Marcus admitted reluctantly. "Humans have a history of overwhelming the cultures we encounter. Not always intentionally, but it happens. Our adaptability and innovation can be disruptive even when we're trying to be helpful." Zarathiel studied his face carefully. "And yet you have been different. You have always sought to enhance our ways rather than replace them, to strengthen our culture rather than change it." Why? Marcus thought about that question for a long moment. "Because I fell in love with your people," he said finally. "Not romantically," he added quickly, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true where Zarathiel was concerned. "But I love your courage, your honor, your dedication to excellence. The last thing I would want to do is damage something so beautiful." The look Zarathiel gave him in response was complex and unreadable. Before either of them could say anything more, another announcement echoed through the city. Defense Coordinator Zarathiel and Cultural Advisor Marcus Chen report to the Council chambers immediately. The approaching vessels have requested communication. The Council chambers had been transformed into a communication center, with dozens of crystal displays showing tracking data from the approaching human ships. Marcus counted at least 12 vessels, including what appeared to be a heavy cruiser of the type the Colonial Authority used for first contact scenarios. This wasn't a simple rescue mission. This was a full diplomatic expedition. "The lead vessel is requesting communication with Marcus Chen specifically," reported the technician manning the communication array. "They're broadcasting in what their computers identify as Standard Terran, but our translation crystals cannot parse the meaning." Marcus stepped forward to the communication panel. "I can handle the translation. Patch me through." The holographic display flickered, then resolved into the image of a middle-aged woman wearing Colonial Authority uniform. Her face was professionally neutral, but Marcus could see relief in her eyes when she spotted him. "Marcus Chen, TCA Survey Division," she said crisply. "This is Captain Sarah Rodriguez, commanding the TCA vessel Endeavor. We've been looking for you for quite some time." "Captain Rodriguez," Marcus replied, feeling strangely formal after months of casual interaction with the Keth Mori. "It's good to see a human face again. I assume you received my beacon transmission?" "We did, though it took our xenoarchaeology teams 3 months to crack the interference patterns surrounding this system. Your beacon was heavily modulated with what appeared to be alien communication protocols." Marcus glanced at Zarathiel, who was watching the exchange intently. "I've been living with the local inhabitants, Captain. They've been incredibly generous hosts, and I've learned a great deal about their culture and technology." Captain Rodriguez's expression shifted subtly. "I see. We'll want a full debrief, of course. Are you in immediate danger? Do you require extraction?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus could feel the weight of dozens of Keth Mori stares, could sense the tension that had entered the chamber at the suggestion that he might be a prisoner rather than a guest. "I'm not in any danger, Captain. In fact, I've been working with the locals on several collaborative projects. This first contact situation is complex. These people have a sophisticated civilization with their own traditions and concerns. They're not just another primitive world to be surveyed and catalogued." "Understood. We'd like to arrange a formal meeting between our diplomatic team and local leadership. Can you facilitate such a meeting? Marcus looked to High Arbiter Veltara, who nodded slowly. The Council of Matriarchs is willing to meet with your representatives, Captain Rodriguez. However, they have conditions, such as... Marcus took a deep breath. The Keth Mori are a warrior culture that values strength, honor, and proven capability above all else. They won't simply accept your authority because you arrive with bigger ships. Any human representatives will need to demonstrate their worth according to local customs. What does that mean exactly? It means your diplomats might need to face the same kinds of tests I did when I first arrived. Physical challenges, tactical problems, demonstrations of wisdom and cultural understanding. The Keth Mori need to know that humanity can be trusted to treat them as equals rather than subjects to be conquered or protected. Captain Rodriguez frowned. That's highly irregular. The Colonial Authority has standard protocols for first contact situations. Captain, Marcus said carefully, with respect, your standard protocols were developed for dealing with less advanced civilizations. The Keth Mori have technology that could revolutionize human engineering, military capabilities that could change how we fight wars, and cultural innovations that could teach us new ways of organizing society. This isn't a situation where you can simply plant a flag and claim authority. The silence that followed stretched uncomfortably long. Marcus could almost see the calculations running through Captain Rodriguez's mind as she tried to balance diplomatic necessity with colonial authority doctrine. Very well, she said finally. We'll prepare a diplomatic team according to your recommendations. But Marcus, I hope you understand that the authority will expect a full accounting of your activities here. 6 months of unreported contact with an alien civilization raises certain questions about your loyalties. The implicit threat in those words sent a chill down Marcus's spine. The Colonial Authority was not known for tolerating personnel who went native during extended missions. If they suspected he had compromised his objectivity or worse, shared classified human technology with aliens, his homecoming might be less pleasant than he had hoped. I understand, Captain. I look forward to providing that accounting. But first, let's focus on making sure this first contact goes smoothly. These people have the potential to be valuable allies, but only if we approach them with the respect they deserve. The communication ended, leaving Marcus alone with the Keth Mori leadership and a knot of anxiety in his stomach. He had been walking a tightrope for months, trying to help his alien hosts while maintaining his human identity. Now that tightrope was about to be tested in ways he had never anticipated. Your people do not sound entirely pleased with your integration into our society, Veltara observed dryly. Should we be concerned about their intentions? Marcus chose his words carefully. The Colonial Authority is cautious about cultural contamination. They worry about humans becoming too attached to alien ways of life and losing perspective on their mission. It's not personal hostility. It's institutional paranoia. And what is your perspective on your mission now? Zarathiel asked quietly. Marcus looked around the chamber at faces that had become familiar and dear to him over the past 6 months. These weren't subjects to be studied or resources to be exploited. They were friends, colleagues, and perhaps something more. My mission has evolved, he said finally. I came here to survey a star system for mining potential. Instead, I've discovered a civilization that could teach humanity as much as we might teach them. If I can help facilitate genuine cooperation between our peoples, that's worth more than any mineral survey. The formal first contact meeting took place 3 days later in the same amphitheater where Marcus had first been tested by the Council. Captain Rodriguez arrived with a full diplomatic team, including xenobiologists, cultural specialists, trade negotiators, and a discreet but obvious security detail. The Keth Mori had prepared their own welcoming ceremony, complete with displays of martial prowess, artistic achievements, and technological innovations. It was an impressive show designed to establish that they were not primitives to be patronized, but equals to be respected. Marcus served as translator and cultural intermediary, helping both sides navigate the complex protocols involved in formal first contact. The humans struggled with the Keth-Mori emphasis on personal combat as a measure of worth, while the Keth-Mori found human bureaucracy and hierarchy mystifying. "Captain Rodriguez," Veltara said through Marcus's translation, "your people speak much of cooperation and mutual benefit, but we see many weapons and few gifts. Are you traders or conquerors?" "High Arbiter," Rodriguez replied carefully, "we come in peace, but prepared for any eventuality. The galaxy is full of dangers, and we've learned to be cautious. Our weapons are for defense only." "All weapons are for defense until they are used for conquest," rumbled Keth Vara, who had been chosen to represent the warrior faction in the negotiations. "If you wish our trust, you must earn it as Marcus Chen did, through demonstrated valor and wisdom." What followed was a diplomatic dance unlike anything in colonial authority history. The human delegation found themselves subjected to the same kinds of tests Marcus had faced, though adapted for a group rather than an individual. Their xenobiologists had to demonstrate understanding of Keth-Mori biology and culture. Their military advisors found themselves in tactical simulations against Void Seeker attacks. Their trade negotiators had to navigate complex honor-based economic systems. To their credit, the humans adapted quickly. Captain Rodriguez herself proved particularly adept at understanding Keth-Mori social structures, while her chief engineer worked well with the crystal technicians to understand their power systems. But it was during the final day of negotiations that everything changed. The Void Seekers attacked. The assault began without warning, as it always did. The creatures materialized out of dark space directly over the Crystal City, their shadow ships casting unnatural darkness across the gleaming spires. But this time, the Keth-Mori were ready. Marcus's integrated defense systems activated immediately, turning the city itself into a coordinated weapon. Crystal spires blazed with focused sunlight, creating killing zones where the Void Seekers couldn't phase. Warrior units deployed in perfect formation, their movements synchronized through communication networks that allowed them to fight as a single organism. The human delegation found themselves in the middle of a battle unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Captain Rodriguez and her security team joined the defense, their energy weapons adding to the Keth-Mori firepower. But it was the sight of humans and Keth-Mori fighting side by side, each compensating for the other's weaknesses, that truly impressed both sides. Marcus coordinated the defense from the command center, his tactical innovations allowing the defenders to achieve something unprecedented, a complete victory against Void Seeker raiders without losing a single defender. When the last shadow ship had been destroyed and the unnatural darkness lifted from the city, both human and Keth-Mori forces looked at each other with new understanding. "Your Marcus Chen has made us stronger than we ever dreamed possible," Zarathiel told Captain Rodriguez as they surveyed the battlefield. "And your people fight with honor and courage. Perhaps there is wisdom in cooperation between our species." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "I begin to see why Marcus has been so insistent about treating your people as equals. You've shown capabilities that could revolutionize human defense strategies. And the way you've integrated his ideas with your own traditions, it's remarkable." The formal alliance treaty was signed the next day, establishing the Keth-Mori worlds as an independent ally of the Terran Colonial Authority rather than a subject territory. Trade agreements were negotiated, cultural exchange programs established, and joint research initiatives planned. But for Marcus, the most important moment came when Captain Rodriguez pulled him aside for a private conversation. "The Authority is prepared to offer you a promotion and a new assignment," she said. "Your work here has been exemplary, and we have other first contact situations that could benefit from your..." unique approach. Marcus looked out at the Crystal City, at the Kethmori warriors practicing formations he had helped design, at Zarathiel directing reconstruction efforts with the competence and grace that had first attracted him to her. "I appreciate the offer, Captain," he said slowly. "But I think my work here isn't finished yet. The Kethmori have agreed to host a permanent human liaison office. Someone needs to help manage the ongoing cultural and technological exchange. I'd like to volunteer for that position." Rodriguez studied his face carefully. "Marcus, are you sure? Permanent assignment to an alien world is, well, it's permanent. You'd be giving up any chance of normal human society, normal human relationships." Marcus's gaze found Zarathiel across the plaza, and she looked back at him with those violet eyes that had become the most beautiful sight in any system. "I've found something here worth more than normal, Captain. I've found a place where I can make a real difference, where human and alien can become something greater together than either could achieve alone. And if I may ask, is there a personal component to this decision?" Marcus smiled. "Let's just say that the Kethmori have finally found someone they think is worthy of their undefeated champion's attention. And she seems to think a human who can solve problems and fight void seekers might make an acceptable mate, even if he can't swing a sword worth a damn." Captain Rodriguez laughed despite herself. "Well, I suppose there are worse fates than falling in love with an alien warrior princess on a crystal world under twin suns. The authority will approve your request, Marcus. Just promise me you'll keep sending reports. The xenoanthropologists are going to want to study this cultural exchange for centuries." As the Endeavor and her escort ships departed for human space, Marcus stood with Zarathiel on the observation deck of their shared home, watching the stars fade into normal space. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities and challenges that neither human nor Kethmori could face alone. "Are you certain about this choice?" Zarathiel asked, her hand finding his. "You're giving up everything familiar for a life among strangers on an alien world." Marcus squeezed her fingers gently, marveling at how perfectly her larger hand fit around his. "I'm not giving up anything," he said. "I'm gaining everything. Besides, we're not strangers anymore, are we? We're partners, in work, in war, and maybe in other things too." Zarathiel's smile was radiant enough to rival the twin suns. "Then welcome home, Marcus Chen of Earth and Kethmora. Let us see what wonders we can build together.